stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, happy day, friends. It is time for some Soul Wandering, the opportunity to hear journey stories, experiences from all kinds of people, all walks of life who show up to share authentic pieces of themselves with all of us. And I am AJ Rasmussen, your host. Welcome to the show. Soul Wanderings is a little get-together where we meet so many incredible humans, but we get to be wherever we are most comfortable and have a listen. We get to talk about all things spiritual, paranormal, metaphysical, and a lot of times inspirational. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. You can participate during the show if you are interested in doing so. If you're listening live with us tonight, we have the chat room to play in. The chat is hosted here on kgraradio.com. You will want to log in if you feel you may have a question or two on tonight's topics with our guest. Topics, because there'll be several. Speaking of the guest, let's get right into it, because I know for sure this one is a talker and has a lot to share with us. It's been 2 years since our last visit, and seriously, that is too long, especially with how much there is to hear about. And tonight we're going commercial-free the first hour and the second hour. So we're going to hear a lot of good stuff. Our guest tonight is Cameron Hale. He is a host of Expanded Perspectives. I'm sure some of you already know of this fella. He hosts that show alongside his best pal, Kyle, and they share stories of the strange and unusual on their podcast. So stories of Bigfoot, cryptid, UFOs, paranormal. I've even heard them cover like crime stories, you name it, they cover it. Cam was born and raised in Texas, and you'll hear that in his accent, which I love. In fact, if you want to know more about Cam, he hung out with me on episode 88. See, a long time ago. We're on episode, I think, 160. But you can find that episode 88 with me and Cam, where he talks more about who he is and his past and his upbringing. If you go on over to soulwanderings.com, there's a lot to know about this guy. You'll want to listen to that one. Cam has over 30 years of research and experience in the stories he shares, which shows because he is a phenomenal storyteller and a yarn spinner, as he puts it. So let's have some story time and welcome Cameron Hale to the show, shall we? Hello, Cam. Welcome back.
Hello, and thank you for the intro. That's a lot to live up to, girl. I'm like, ooh, I gotta try to do decent here. You put a lot of pressure on me.
What are you talking about? I'm just sharing who you are. I've said this before when we've talked. I really enjoy your stories because you don't just tell a story. You actually paint the picture, and
I try.
You do. It's like you're there when you're listening. It's like you're experiencing this story right firsthand.
I get excited about it, and I still do. And I've always, I don't know. I know it's silly. You would think after you've read as much stuff as we all read, and when we all get involved in anything, especially in this, people get all excited, about cryptozoology, and you dig in deep into Bigfoot or anything like that, and you read all the stories, you'd think after a while you're going to get bored. But I still don't ever seem to get bored. I can never stop. Not so much the research of really digging into why, but just like the what. Like, I just love the stories, and I love sharing them and trying to give. I guess I tell the story like I'm trying to give somebody the way I feel about it. It's like I'm trying to share that feeling, and it's turned into something good. Like, we've had, even since I talked to you, we've got so many stories people send us now that just email us or call us, leave messages and things. It's insane. and really fascinating. Like there's nothing, no two are the same. Like you can kind of group them together, but no two are the same, covering
Right.
everything. Shadow men. It doesn't matter what it is, what it covers. We get some really wild stuff. And I think that's my most favorite thing is just the stories. So that's why I try to do my best at telling a story.
And you are phenomenal at it, like I said. I think it's really neat that you share other people's stories. I've talked about this before in the past show, I believe, that we both sort of do the same thing. We just do different stories, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's either way, it's really neat because we have people reach out to us and share their story. And a lot of times with the people who share their stories with me, they're more personal and more deep and whatever that looks like. And yours are definitely more adventurous. And I think that's what's so exciting is you never know the truth with your stories because it's mostly things that are anomalous. So
yes,
there isn't a real defined answer in what's really happening. So you can dig limitlessly into these stories and have a different perception from someone each and every time.
For 100%.
It's so neat.
Yeah. And what's really strange is like there is when you start finding threads, and we talk about this on the show, is when you find a thread that connects a story and then you start seeing that it connects to something else. And then it leads into a type of research that you never expected to get into of why do all of these sightings all seem to have a certain thing. It's much like the missing people and the work that David Paulides has done is it always seems when people go missing that it's during a storm right before a storm hits, right after the person goes missing. And it's strange because it's almost like it's in a program. Like it's almost like this is that, somebody goes missing, get ready. We're about to have some bad weather. Well, and it's weird because there's no real answer for it that we could come up with. But that's another fun part is when you get people sharing their stories that don't realize it, that don't realize that they are connected to other people and other stories. And that was something I wasn't prepared for at all with the podcast or getting like we would receive messages. We still get them where people are sharing their stories with us and telling us how much it means to them to not be judged, to have a safe place to go and talk about it or something, and to know that there's other people like they're willing to share their story because they heard us share somebody else's. And they're like, oh, okay, so I'm not alone in all this. I thought I was because mine was so unique. I'm having that actually happen right now is what's going on as I've been going back and forth with a listener who is relaying a story from his grandmother and his grandmother's experience with some small hairy hominids, multiple, like 3 or 4, and a sighting that respond by what she had described to her grandson, the one I'm talking to now. What she described to him is because he had heard me cover something like it when a man that I know very well had a sighting of small Native Americans. It looked like tiny Native Americans in the woods, and actually had encounters, 2 or 3 times with them. And so he took that story, let her listen to it. And then she's like, yeah, let me tell you. And then she kind of opened up more when she realized that her grandson's not going to think she's the crazy grandma. And so it's kind of going that way. So, yeah, we're getting a lot of information trickling in from that whole deal. So hopefully when I get that wrapped up, it'll be fun to share that one too. But yeah,
I look forward to that. That's one topic that I don't know a whole lot about, but familiar with it. But I think it's really neat when people can call in and be validated. Like, hey, you're not crazy. Other people have seen these things too.
Exactly.
How important is that?
In this genre or this clique that we're all in this corner that we've carved out for ourselves, I think letting people know it's okay. It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword saying it's okay to come forward with any story. You're not going to be judged. And we're going to, everybody's going to listen and, nobody's going to judge you. We need all the information we can get is a good thing for the people that are genuine. But it also opens the door for liars and hoaxers and things like that because they know it's going to be openly accepted and all that. There is always a fringe. The pendulum always swings. So there's always the fringe on one side that are going to just make up anything. The people on the other side that are never going to believe. And then there's those in the middle that are doing their due diligence to kind of vet out these stories. And you kind of know when somebody's making something up, especially if you talk to them face to face or on the phone. You can kind of hear it with just small questions you ask without them knowing it, that you may ask 2 or 3 times, and then you get a different response every time. Then you kind of know, oh yeah, this may be a little bit hokey. And then you get others that are like, no, this is exactly, and they're just real adamant about what it was and more genuine. So you have to take it with, like I said, a double-edged sword, the way it works. Mm-hmm. But I think overall it's a benefit for everyone involved to have a place to share. And what's good is there's so many shows out there now. There are so many shows, so many people out there now that you can share with anyone that you feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And that's the best thing about this ability for us to broadcast and to communicate the way we are right now.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. That's where I love technology.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the perks of technology.
This is true. This is very, very true. That and air conditioning.
Oh, definitely air conditioning. I could use some of that about right now.
Yeah, that and air conditioning.
So before we get too ahead of ourselves,
yeah.
For those who didn't hear the show, or, it has been 2 years, like I said, give us a little bit of information about yourself. Like, who are you? Tell us a little bit about your show with Kyle, so we have a foundation of why you're such a great storyteller.
All right. The skinny on the whole deal. Here's the lowdown on the whole thing to make it quick and not go too crazily deep. Like I did the stories on the last show. I remember some of the things I've told about the adventures that Mr. Filson and I have had. So starts out, he's my best friend. I met him in the 6th grade, and he and I became instant friends, and we've been friends ever since. And we're in our mid-40s now. And we live literally 200 yards, actually probably a little less. We probably live about 170 yards from each other. And we do the podcast. And like I said, we've been there for everything. I mean, with one another, the whole deal. But we were both interested in these subjects, even back then as kids.
Right. That's how you became friends, right?
That's right. All over. Archery and Bigfoot was how he and I became friends. And how we're still friends is archery and Bigfoot. I mean,
good.
It's the same thing. But yeah, that's how it all started. And then back in 2013, actually it was earlier than that, 2011, we started talking about wanting to do a podcast. We'd been listening to some, we wanted to try it. We put it off, and finally said, hey, do you think we could do it? And so we started one in 2013, and then we've been podcasting ever since and meeting everybody and talking to everybody. But up until starting the podcast, I mean, we still got all the books and read all the books, listened to the podcast, watched the movies, did the research, and would carry on these conversations between he and I whenever we were hunting or fishing or camping or doing whatever, going and doing all this stuff. And so it was kind of a natural transition. And we've always loved to tell each other silly stories. Like, man, did I tell you what happened the other day? And then, we try to, because we're trying to make each other laugh. It's a one-up silliness. Right. And so that's how it developed into the podcast. And so that's where it's in. But yeah, I've been interested in this, I said before, for as long as I can remember, and it's just become worse. But it's because of being an outdoorsman, because of always being outside. That's the most fun stuff. I don't, like I'd said before, and I'm still that way. I don't like the paranormal and the ghosts and all that. So I try to pretend that's not even there. I'm just like, nope, not today. And I just move on, because that stuff, like, I know, and this is always the joke, and I think I said it before, this is always the joke. I don't go to ghost hunts, and I don't go to like investigate creepy haunted places, because when you leave that place and jump in your truck to go home, there could be a demon in the back seat. And you brought it in. If I go to the woods looking for Bigfoot, he's not hiding in my back seat. I don't magically bring Bigfoot home and then I'm like, oh, honey, he's loose in the house again. Like, that doesn't happen. So I just try to stay down to physical things, like, all right, maybe it's not sneaking home with me. And that's the way. And I'm that way when we do our research. And I've talked about creepy stuff, but I try not to dig too deep. I'm just kind of like the guy driving by and like, hey, and just waving at the demons, and drive on. That's how I like to play my life.
You don't want to attract them into your experience at all.
No part of that. No part of that business. There's too many stories. Like, I mean, all right, we'll get into stories. I've got you a creepy story. We received a story.
Yes.
Of a woman that was a nurse in an old facility, like an elderly facility, like not really hospice, but not really a nursing home. Like, it was what are they called? Like an assisted living facility, but she had another name for it and I forgot what it was, but it's still one of those things where the patients are towards the end of their race. They've done a good job. They've ran a good race and they're towards the end, near the finish line, let's say. And she said that she was on the night shift and she didn't really like pulling the night shift, but it was one of those, it wasn't for anything other than she just didn't like being away from her family. But she said that the night shift started having some really interesting things happen to it. So she decided that she would stay on it. And what she mean by is she said that they would just out of the blue started experiencing like random cold spots in the hallways. Mm. She said things would be moved like in the, what did she say? The mechanical room, which is where they had like all their controls for all the water and the electric and everything in this.
They like to hide out there.
Yes. Yeah. And she said, they would keep a lot of cleaning supplies and stuff in there. And she said stuff like that would move when there was only a few people would have like access to it. Little things just that would make it seem like, is somebody messing around or is something strange really going on here? But she said what really got bad is she got in there one night, and this is where it started getting kind of weird, is she said that she started hearing a sound. It was a man's voice, a very deep voice. And she said she wasn't sure where it was coming from. It was kind of a whispered, a subdued voice kind of coming down the hallway. So she's like, there's nobody should be out of the room. It's like 2:30 in the morning. Nobody should be out milling around. So she's making her rounds real quietly, sneaking around. And she finally hears it in this woman's room. And she's like, oh, here we go. And she just hears this man's voice. And she said she eases the door open, looks in there. The woman's fast asleep. There's nobody in there. Voice, there's no more sound. The voice stops. She closes the door. She's like, I wonder what that was. Mills around a little bit. Here's the voice again. This time she slips up. Same woman's door. Same everything. She's listening. She said it's speaking in Latin. And it is very dark, like a very heavy voice. Like it's a weird sound. But she's like, it's a man's voice, almost like a whisper, not a growl, nothing evil sounding. But she's like, it's something, something in speaking in Latin. She's like, what is going on? So she opens the door, nothing. So the next morning, milling around, she doesn't know how to bring it up to the woman. So, she's the woman there for breakfast and she's like, hey, by the way, before she goes home from her shift, she's like, did you sleep all right? She's like, yeah, I did. I slept okay, but it was kind of strange. And she said, what do you mean? And she said, well, the priest was in my room all night. And she's like, the priest? And she's like, yeah, he just stood in the corner and just recited a prayer and just in a low whisper. And she said, I was afraid I was going to die. And so I asked him, am I dying? And he said, no. And then he just went right back to it. And she said that old woman reported that 2 or 3 nights in a row. And then that was it. She didn't die, nothing crazy. She just kept talking about the priest coming back to her room. And she's like, well, I'll have to talk to him. She didn't have the heart to say there's no priest, but she said, I heard Latin being spoke one night in that room in the dark at about 2:30 in the morning. And she says, I have no explanation for that. I have no explanation of why or what that was in that room praying in Latin over that woman, if that's what it was doing. But she said it lasted a few nights. And she only heard the voice the one night. But she said the woman reported it for like 2 nights after that, for like 3 nights in a row, and then never brought it up again.
It's so unsettling. That is so unsettling.
Like you don't need some old Latin priest lingering around in the dark, praying to you like, yeah, I'm good. Thanks. No. And that's the reason you don't go digging around in places like that. You don't go looking at old haunted hotels and stuff.
But see, I really enjoy that kind of thing. But I also trust that I'm protected and, my world is filled with unicorns and butterflies and everything is safe. And
I wouldn't even have heard the Latin. Like I told you, I stumbled through life like a dumb child, so I would have no idea.
Oh my gosh, that is terrifying. So we've heard of stories like that with guests on the show where they've had some really creepy things happen in their spaces.
I don't know what it is about, like the idea of like an old ghost. Like, I don't know why, because I'm going to be probably all old and decrepit and creepy looking before I die too, but I don't know what it is like about everybody's seen, Inner Sandman? Is that the one with the old man in it, the old Metallica video?
Oh, I'm very familiar with the song. Cannot recall the
It may
video.
not be that song. I'm trying to think what video they use. I just went blank on it. What video they use that creepy old man on. And I always think about that. Like how creepy it would be. Just like there's just some like 150 looking year old man creeping down the hallway in a hospital or something. That's what I picture that priest looking like. Or I picture him looking like the flat brimmed wearing guy from oh, now I went blank again.
You're drawn. What's going on tonight, Cam?
Because I haven't been. I've been COVID lockdown. I've been doing nothing but watching all these crazy shows. Poltergeist 2. I think it's the second one when the old man with the hat show. No, it's the first one with the flat brim. That's who I picture reciting that Latin is something like that. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of any creepy ghost
that
stuff.
show creeped me out, but I was really young when it came out. The thing about spirits, when you know they're older, for some reason, it's a little bit creepier.
Old people and young kids as like spirits or demons, creepy. Middle-aged folks, I'm not afraid. Why is that?
Why is that?
I don't know. It's again because I'm an idiot and I just stumble through life pretending they're not there.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like my world is, I feel like I'm just protected and I'm, playing around. But in all reality, I have experienced some pretty freaky things when I've gone on, when we've done like paranormal hunts and things like that, or house clearings. Oh, some scary stories with some house clearings, but
no, I'm good.
Yeah, I literally physically got pushed on my back to my knees.
No thanks.
Right? Yeah.
See, you're way braver than me. Like, no, but I'm out of here. Like,
that was the scariest thing that ever happened. That whole story just freaks me out because there was a lot more to it. It was very demonic and very dark, and we had to call in a priest and do all of these things. But definitely the scariest story. I'm not a storyteller, so I'll just sound like a blubbering idiot, and I'll tell you off air sometime. But
it would have ruined a perfectly good pair of underwear for me.
Yeah, it was freaky. It was beyond freaky. Not even gonna lie. But you guys talk about other things. I would love to hear more scary stories, though. I'm not gonna lie. So if they come up again, if you think of them, you go ahead and share.
Right now, we've been talking to a lot of people and looking into stuff about black hyena sightings that are taking place in Texas.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Now, I don't know why it is, but there has been several. And, of course, you say several. That's a very loose term compared to the number of people, in the state of Texas. But, I mean, like, I think we've gotten between the ones that were sent to us and the ones we had found were like 6 or 8 at first of just random hyena sightings in the state of Texas. Okay,
but hyenas are freaky scary to me.
Well, and then they start talking about some that were like way bigger. Like I don't know why they were bigger, but like some of them, like there was a story that come out, I forgot where it was at, but there's it's in Pennsylvania, and it was like a dude saw one that they believed was the size of a cow. Like just driving, and like this thing looked like a heifer, but it was a hyena. And I'm like, wait a second. We know they don't. I'm like, what is that? Some kind of time slip from the dinosaur period? Like we're going to get some Jurassic giant hyena. But the ones here in West Texas that they've seen out around Midland and Odessa, guys have reported seeing them, and they describe them to a T as being a hyena. High in the front end, low in the back end, a little bit larger, of course, than the way dogs are built, the same funky head, the whole thing, the same noise. They were like, so it always makes you wonder, are they really seeing hyenas that maybe some wacky millionaire rancher out there that's got all this oil money decided he'd buy some hyena cubs and then, raised them up as pups or whatever. Then they get loose. Now they're just running wild through West Texas. Or is there really something out there that resembles that of a hyena? I mean, we've had people on that's talked about dogmen, the dogmen encounters. For those of you that don't know, I mean, they have encounters with 7-foot tall canines, and they use dogmen. Like everything is something man, bird man, moth man, dog man, everything's man. But there's really no other way to describe it, because it's not really a werewolf. Because what they say is the lower half of the animal, of the canine, isn't man-like. It's still dog-like with the funky legs and the way its hips don't set right. It's longer bodied. Like they describe a dog, but an upright giant like German Shepherd. course, it's
No
all
way.
black. But yeah, we had two guys come on the show. This has been years ago, and describe their encounter that they had with one, and they actually fired at it within reason, not long range. We're talking within 30 yards, probably with 60 foot or less. Let's say 20 yards are in, with pistols at it, and it didn't react at all. Now they found some blood and all this, and it ran off, but it was standing up on its back legs, pushing its way through the brush, and they could see its face. They could see everything when they fired at it. And it turned, and they said they blood trailed it for a little bit, and then they quit, and they're like, it's dark, and we're not going after a werewolf, like whatever that was. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding, no silver bullets, no chasey. Leave that thing alone. And so I don't know if they went back in the morning or whatnot, but I can't remember. But yeah, those guys, and we talked.
So are they similar to like the men? When you say their body, is it like the men that are like men and horse, like a centaur?
No, like, when you see a werewolf, it looks like it's got like a human feet and like the legs and all that of a man. Right? It may have hair all over it, but like a Bigfoot with a dog face is what most people think of as a werewolf. Well, imagine if you just stood a dog completely up, allowed its shoulders to articulate maybe a little bit more, because they always talk about it being broad-shouldered.
Yeah.
Because a dog's shoulders doesn't move like man's shoulders. So imagine a broader shoulder with more articulation up top, but the same dog lower half too, the way it walks around.
Okay, I'm just curious. I know you're really into Bigfoot, and now you're sharing these stories. If these beings are legit real and they're there and then they're not, like when you go look for them any other time, I've heard people say that they're interdimensional beings. Do you play into that idea?
It really does explain everything if you go down that path. If you give in to the fact that there is multiple dimensions and fractured timelines that we live in, then you would have to look at that as an explanation of the only way that things can be there and then vanish so fast. I'll give you, for instance, so we started researching a while back and doing these stories, and we started getting more people, again, sending us stories about it, and then we've got them from other shows that have received them and sent them to us, about a term we kind of coined. I can't say 100% we coined it, but it's something that we started using more often, about the glimmer man. And again, it's the man, but how else? You have to use man to give it an idea, a shape that it's human, right? So we go with that. But glimmer man, to let everybody know what I'm talking about, is the Predator. From the movie Predator, it's Predator with the invisible camouflage. So it looks
my
like
gosh.
Exactly. So it looks like you're looking through something kind of funky like that with that magnified film. Yeah. And so I had gotten some stories about it, and I got one from, and I can't remember, I think Oklahoma maybe is where it come down from, or Arkansas, something like that, of a young hunter that was out there and actually had it follow them for like 2 days, him and his cousin, until they finally left. But we've received tons of them where people have seen them in the trees. People will see them, and I don't mean on the ground. I'm talking up in the trees. And what's funny is they're different sizes. Like they may be small, like, 2 or 3 foot, or they may be the size of Bigfoot, which they may be, 7, 8 foot tall. But these giant they're like glimmer men. I mean, that's all they are, is the Predator. And so if you look at that, and this is the way we were first looking at it, was, could it be just an image that's not coming through clear from the other side? I believe there was an old television show called The Fringe or Fringe, and it dealt on a split timeline or an alternate universe, or, another dimension. And if there was a way to either raise your vibrations, to however you could tune yourself in to that other universe, or that other dimension rather, then maybe at the time of crossover, or maybe if you're not fully crossed over, then you look like that to those of us that can see your image. Kind of like if you're under a waterfall and it's not falling super hard, so you can still see the outline and the color of somebody, but you can't clearly see them.
That's a way to look at it.
Well, and you think about the person behind the waterfall may not be able to see you. So they may not even know anybody's out there. They're just standing there living their life. Whereas you on the outside looking in can see that whole outline. That may be what's the difference. And then maybe, there's always a little give and take, but it would be the only thing that could possibly explain how fast Bigfoot can disappear when people give chase, or the tracks can vanish. It would also explain, it's been something that we've talked about at length about people that go missing, the missing 411 books, the people missing in the state parks, that it could be something along those lines. Is David points out in some of those books about the granite boulder fields. So it makes you think, what if there was some sort of a wormhole or some sort of vibrational area, whatever it could be, that's tuned into those granite fields, and maybe that's a place of crossover. And so not knowing it happens as a backpacker or somebody stumbles into it, the next thing you know is you're kind of in the land of upside down and you don't have any idea what's going on, and that's why when they finally, if they ever find them, they don't really remember anything that happened. They are really kind of at a loss, like they're coming out of a dream, all of this. That would explain a lot, is if you could blend back and forth, because as a species, we only have a handful of senses. So you got to think really how primitive our senses are, how primitive our nose is compared to the animals that live with us, how primitive our eyesight is compared to the animals that fly over us. I mean, we are a very, very primitive species. The only thing that helps us is this lump of meat and muscle we have between our ears. That's it. That's all we got. So
some of us
have a lot less.
Some of us are lacking a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, however. To me, I look at things interdimensionally because that's what my head is comfortable with. Same with my heart, spiritually. Like, that makes sense that we can move in and out of dimensions. However, the way that you put it is something I haven't heard before, where I would think that we have other beings besides humans. There's all different types of life forms out there, and they're just going in and out of dimensions, and oops, we actually entered the human dimension and we don't want to be here. Peace out. Because humans really are something else. But
well, I mean, there's any explanation. I mean, because we don't really know,
right?
Like, we like to believe we know, but I think the further we've gotten, the more we realize, like, we lost a lot of knowledge when the Library of Alexandria was burnt, and we lost a lot of that understanding that was saved in a lot of those books, and so we've had to start over. And so it's been a very rough and rocky road trying to find our way again, compared to what, the benefits that we had whenever you can pass on that knowledge. So, yeah, I mean, there's not
who knows?
Yeah. Are you familiar with time slips?
No.
Okay.
No, wait, that's not true. I've heard some stories about time slips, but I haven't researched it or anything.
Well, and that's another one of those things that would be the only way to explain it, is where people experience these things. Like, there's all the tales of, like, certain people that look out of place, like time travelers in pictures.
Yeah.
And then you get one of my favorites come from, I believe, out of Kentucky, about a young man that had gone back. Him and his friends, was like driving a Jeep and doing some off-roading, and, like, went off into the back country up in the mountains there. And next thing they knew, they pulled up on, like, an old cabin. Like, the Jeep broke down or something. Well, they pull up on an old cabin, and they end up talking to this guy and all that. And some more wild stuff happens with some gunfights, and I think one of them gets shot. And, I mean, all kinds of wild stuff breaks loose. And anyway, they finally get back to the Jeep, get it started and get going to get back out of what they thought was the backwoods. And when they show back up, they'd only been gone for like 2 hours, but they'd been missing for 2 weeks in our time. And, like, there was like an old pocket knife in the back of the Jeep.
Yeah.
So all this stuff. There was a fella. We got a story sent to us about a fella that had gone into a bookstore, and, like, when he's in the bookstore, he looks back out or goes back outside, and everything around him is like 1930s. The cars, the people, everything. He turns back around, and it's literally like he just got dropped off in the middle of 1930, and the shop that he was in is now like the old bookstore. And so he has to go back. He goes back in, and then that's whenever, as he's coming in and out of the door, everything kind of evaporates around him, and he realizes he's back. And his wife's like, "Where have you been?" He's like, "Right here." She's like, "No, I've been here for 5 minutes looking for you." where did you go? And he's like, no, I've never left. I've been right here. And then he has to explain it to her. There was like a married couple in France that, here's the wild one. So, and
I thought that last one was pretty wild, but keep going.
This one takes the cake. So a couple get married in Europe. They're going to go to France for their honeymoon. And so they decide to drive, newlyweds. And he has reserved this really, I can't remember the name of the town. This really, of course, it's not like I could pronounce the town anyway. I'm awful at that. So this beautiful hotel, and he's driving to get them there. And they get to the hotel, and he said, they get out. They don't really unpack everything. They just grab a couple of little overnight bags. They're not going to bring everything in. They're tired. It's like 1 a.m. And he pulls up, and he was like, there's no lights on in the town. He's like, the town's dark. There's no real street lights, and there's one old street light burning out in front of the hotel. And he pulls up, and he's like, this thing's a dump. So this is not what I saw on the flyer. So he goes inside, rings the bell, asks all that. And a young girl comes out, and she's carrying like a little lantern. He's, with a candle, the whole deal. He's like, well, they really are getting into this whole role play of being an old, hotel. So he talks to the girl, and he says, I've made a reservation. And she kind of looks at him funny. And he's like, so we're married and all this stuff. And so she goes and she opens the registry, and he's looking, and the registry's old and everything about it's old. And he's supposed to sign in. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to sign in because I don't think I'm going to stay. So he just kind of acts like he does, lays it down. She goes to show him to the room, goes up, unlocks the room. They go in the room. She doesn't really do anything with the bags. Like like you would think she's going to carry them. She don't touch nothing. She just goes up and unlocks the door, hands him the key, points inside the room, and she walks off. And he's like, man, this is weird. They go in the room. He said they both set their bags on the bed, and the bed's dirty. And I don't mean like, oh, it's unwashed. No, it's like dusty and dirty, like it's been untouched for years in this room. Yeah. There's dust on the lamps. There's dust on everything. He's like, we are not staying here for our honeymoon night. This is not happening. Like I said, it's about 1 a.m. So they leave. He grabs the bags. They go out. He goes to tell the girl he's banging on the bell. All that. She never shows back up. He can't find anybody. So he goes out the door, gets in the car, him and his new wife, and they drive down to the beach. And he finds a place to park on the beach. And he's like, we're going to sleep right here in the car till it gets daylight. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk to the manager. And he's like, I spent too much money on this room. I can't believe this is what it looks like. And he's like, this little dump of a town is not what I thought it was going to be. So he's, they go to sleep in the car. Sun comes up. Boom. He wakes up, looks over at his wife, and his wife has got this terrified look on her face. And he's like, what is the matter, honey? And she goes, where did this town come from? And he gets up and looks around, and he is parked in a parking lot facing the beach. And there's traffic, and there's street lights, and there's like a Starbucks. There's like stuff all around him, right? Surrounding him. And there's the hotel, and it's beautiful. And it has everything you could possibly want. I mean, so he pulls back up, gets back out, walks in the hotel. They take it. They're going to park his car. They take all of his stuff. He goes inside, and he's like, we were here last night. And the whole deal. And he's like, is there another hotel in town? She's like, no, sir. This hotel's been here for some 200 years, 150 years, like something great. Like this has always been here. A long time has always been here. And he starts describing all this. And the lady or the woman or whatever was like, oh, look, I can't help you because that's not here. Whatever you saw, whatever you went to, you did not come here. We've been here all night. And it's like this 24/7. And so he unpacks, of course, and they go up and then they spend their honeymoon. But so wherever he's at, it's like he drove back in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Those things I hear, those stories are happening all around us.
Yes.
That's what is so insane. And we just are, we are conditioned not to talk about them. But you
just can't wrap your head around it. So you don't even know how to share it.
Because there are no words.
Did I have some sort of delusional trip without even realizing it?
Am I having a flashback?
Right. What? I got to check this coffee. What did y'all put in here?
Right. Yeah,
that's what you'd think. You'd think you're going crazy.
You would. And I can see why a lot of people are admitted. I mean, all the centuries past. Think about how many people were admitted for psychosis for having a real life experience.
Yeah.
That we just were like, oh, you're crazy. Let's just hook a bunch of stuff up to your brain. And
think about all the people that have been judged and told that they were crazy and told they didn't know what they were talking about when they brought up UFOs, and the Pentagon just finally released that, oh, yeah, they're real, y'all.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that for sure. We're going to talk about that.
Right?
But before we get there, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Before we get to the UFO thing, I just want to make sure we ask this question because, everyone's interested in Skinwalker Ranch. It's here in Utah where I live. But when you were talking about the dogmen, they were wondering if that's similar to what you're talking about, the ones that they have found on Skinwalker.
That's a very, I don't know. I mean, it's one, because Skinwalker Ranch, everything that I've read about it and watched, and it's a very unique place. What's so strange?
Crazy.
Oh yeah. What's so strange is the amount of effort, and time and money, all of it that's been put into that place, and they still haven't come forward with any answers. So either there's nothing going on out there, or whatever's going on out there is so terrifying that they really don't even know how to explain it, or can't measure it, or understand it even themselves.
That's what I believe. But I've also driven as close as you're allowed to drive there. And there is an energy about it. I'm not going to lie. And not because I was reaching for it. I didn't know anything about Skinwalker until I felt that. There is definitely something to be said about the energy that is there if you're sensitive to that. It's eerie. It's so like nothing else I can explain. But they don't let you get really close. It's pretty blocked off, but it's about 3 hours away from where I live.
It's a fascinating place. If everything is on the level of the experiences that people have had out there, it deserves to be studied the way it's studied. And it's a very fascinating and unsettling place. I'm afraid. I want there to be nothing. I want there just to be a whole bunch of kind of like anomalies, but it's really not a big deal. But I'm afraid it's not that. I'm afraid there's something. Every time when you don't know it, everybody instantly goes, "Oh, there's something dark and sinister going on out there." I don't know what's going on out there, but I think it's so deep, or maybe so big, that they can't even wrap their heads around it. So they don't even know how to approach breaching the subject to society.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what's going on. Exactly that. They can't even explain whatsoever.
Like if you took a time machine and went back in time 200 years and took your iPhone, and it was life or death, you had to explain how this thing operated to people. How could you even do it? Like, what? They're not going to believe it'll do all the things that it'll do. Even if you went back to the start of the space program, before we ever launched a rocket to the moon, if you believe in all that stuff too, if you even did that, there's more power in your hand than what was in that spaceship. And so you can't even explain that. So now you take something that people are conditioned to believe doesn't even exist, and you start trying to explain it to them. Good luck. You're going to get committed. They're going to put you in there, put a big rubber bite piece in your mouth, and shock your brain, because they're going to be like, this dude's lost it.
Right. I shouldn't laugh, because that really isn't funny for anyone who has had that experience.
But that's what
you feel like. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Not only feel like that, they'll convince you that you are.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst part, is whenever you got people that don't believe it so much that they convince you that you're crazy, instead of going, man, maybe you did see that. I don't know. I can't help you, but what can we help you to help get over that? They want to convince you that you're a crazy person. And if you've seen something, I go back to the story I told you on the very first time we talked about the Bigfoot hoax. That's my favorite Bigfoot story. And you have to imagine, if you're those people that had that encounter, it doesn't matter if it was real or it was a hoax. The results are still the same. It doesn't matter if I hit you in the head with a brick or a hammer. You still got hit in the head. Right. Now you're splitting. So the results are the same. So if you think it's real, even though if it's not, you still have that impact on you. And I think that sticks with it. And I think there's definitely been an impact that stuck with people from the original family that had the Skinwalker Ranch before they sold.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, they've never sought any type of fame or recognition about any of this. They don't want to even acknowledge it was them. So what does that tell you? It tells you that something happened that they don't want to ever revisit. So they're just leaving it alone. Because anybody that's anybody would be like, you know what? Now's as good a time as any. I'm going to come out and tell everybody it was me. I was the guy living on Skinwalker Ranch. Let me tell you my story, and do all this. But they've not done that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, they're terrified, or, they're not allowed to talk about it. Either way, they're terrified. But
yeah, either way.
Either way.
They're scared. Yeah.
Yeah. They're definitely not talking about it, and neither is the new owner. But it is a fascinating story. If anyone is interested, just Google it. There's a plethora of stories about Skinwalker.
Yeah. There's a good documentary. Jeremy Corbell does a pretty good job on his documentary with it too.
Where could they find that one?
Believe it was on Hulu. It might still be on Hulu now. Yeah, it's probably on Amazon.
I've probably seen it. I just got so fascinated with that story, with the stories surrounding that property, just because, it's a huge area for paranormal activity. There's so many things supposedly going on there.
I think that's the thing that's so wild that makes it hard for people to want to believe.
It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like animal mutilation and shape shifting and UFOs and crop circles and all kinds of really bizarre things.
Like you've hit the jackpot there for that. And that's usually a bell that goes off whenever people are talking about a story, whenever there's too much, whenever we all know those people that have had everything happen to them, right?
Yes.
Everything. They've been with Bigfoot and they've been in UFOs and they've, swam with Aquaman. And I mean, they've done everything they could possibly do. They've been involved in it. And instantly you're kind of like, yeah, I smell a little BS here. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to that, like that's your instinct, is like that place is fake. There's no way that much stuff's going on, but undoubtedly something is. And it's, I don't know. I try to stay away from it because it makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Because
because you'll never have an answer.
No. And you think you get one thing answered and it doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. It just opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Right. It's frustrating. There is no end to it. And I don't know if we'll ever know. But, you were talking about where I ended up taking you backwards with the question. I had to ask it because it was a listener question, but
no worries.
You were headed to the direction of the Pentagon releasing information about UFOs.
Why is that not the biggest news story right now in the world?
Well, it ought to be one of them. There's a lot of things that we should be talking about, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
This one in particular absolutely needs to be talked about, and nothing has happened. This would have been like the biggest news story last year if all of these other things were happening now. People have been waiting for this.
Tell me it doesn't feel like they waited to release this where they knew it would get covered up by news articles.
Oh, no. I totally predicted it. When all of this happened, a lot of things are getting, under the radar because of everything else that's being brought to our attention.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulation is alive and well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Let's not take me down that because I could go off. Let's talk about the UFOs. What did the Pentagon say, and what's the news on that?
They're releasing the New York Times released a whole big article about it, about what they said was you remember they said that they disbanded this program that they had investigating these flying objects. And so turns out, of course, they didn't, I don't think they ever truly disband anything. I think they just narrow it down to one person and put that person in the basement with a computer. And he's like, you're going to work on this till you retire. This is what you're going to do. But apparently they were still studying it. And so what they've actually come forward and said at one of their articles and one of their posts, they had come forward and talked about that they have got craft and that they're not of this earth, and that they'd recovered them. If any of you haven't seen the Bob Lazar documentary on Netflix, another one by Jeremy Corbell, you have to watch it. You may love or hate Bob, but if you watch his documentary about him, and then you go back now after you watch it and then read the stuff that's coming out about the UFOs, it starts, what he talked about in 89 starts making more and more sense. it starts falling into place and makes it all seem like this has been known maybe even longer than Roswell, like maybe even before then, like before we really
I
even knew what
believe
to do
it.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that it's always been known. Think about all of the history. For instance, all the way back to hieroglyphs. You
Mhm.
go into a cave and you see these beings carved into the rock. We've known about them all along. So why would it be hidden from us now? Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal? That's
Well,
what I want to know. Like, why can't we know they're out there for sure with the facts?
and I also wonder too if when they released it, if everybody was already to the mindset now that we know they're out there, y'all are just unwilling to agree to it. And then they finally released it, and maybe I expected there to be more people freaked out, and apparently maybe they were more UFO believers in this world than I thought, because when they released the information, they were like, yeah, we already knew that. Like, we know we're not alone out here. And that was that. Like we were talked about people being judged with this whole outcry for all of this, and us getting this information. It instantly makes me go back to all the people that have had abduction stories and encounters that have been judged so hard. I remember reading stories when I was a young person about alien abduction and about how the community would treat them. Like,
Yeah.
They would just
Horribly.
It was awful, because it's like they look at them like they're crazy. Like, what were you doing to believe that? How could you believe that?
Mhm.
And then they would start playing off, oh, it's night terrors. Oh, it's this. You're really not asleep. You're like in a waking dream. And, they have all these stories about how it couldn't be aliens, and all these excuses of what you're really doing, what's going on in your body, and the reason you think you're being abducted is really not happening. It's a dopamine dump in your brain, and they go through all this stuff, and then now the government's come out and go, by the way, they're real, and we have
Just
some.
kidding.
We can't. You're like, oh, so all the time people were telling everybody abductions weren't real. There's a good chance they probably were.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, not only abductions, but all of the things that went along with them.
Yeah. Not just the abduction.
Right. I am stuttering for words because I can't wrap my head around it. I've always believed that we weren't alone, like, just because I feel connected that there are other beings out in the world, in the universe. Absolutely. But because we're not familiar and we don't have that one-on-one experience with it, and we've been told all of our lives that they're not real, it's really challenging to wrap your mind around the concept that they are here and supposedly interacting with us, and have been the entire time.
And you brought up a really good point of being told your whole life that they weren't real. And we've been told by the government, of course, that just finally come forward and said that they weren't real. They've gone on record saying, no, they say all these things. And then now they've come forward with this. It would be like your parents telling you one thing, and then you turn to be 40 years old and both your parents go, by the way, we're not your parents. We kidnapped you when you were like 2 months old.
Right.
Like,
or
what?
Santa's not real.
Yeah. They'll tell you, and you're like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you learning something that you've believed your entire life, and now they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, we were just joshing you. That's really not what happened.
Why do you think they're telling us now? Do you think they have an agenda behind sharing that information?
I think there's multiple reasons. I don't think there's just one. I believe there's multiple reasons that we were told. And yeah, I don't think that our government does anything without an agenda. I don't think that they do anything without trying. Now, they make mistakes, of course, because everybody's human. You're going to do something stupid and something gets slipped out and you find out information you shouldn't have found out. I get that. But I think this release, I think what snowballed it was all of the Lieutenant Favor video of the flying Tic Tac that he has from flying in his jet when he was dealing with all that. I think that is what started the snowball effect of those videos getting leaked and people seeing it and people wanting to know what was going on, and more people coming forward. I think the government, for some reason, just felt that, like, you know what, let's just go ahead and tell them and see what happens. And then I think, I'm not so sure they were probably planning on telling them telling us back whenever those videos first leaked. And I think all of this COVID stuff hit and all of these things hit, and it just kind of swarmed, and maybe they didn't get a chance to release it until now. But I think it was released now because it's easily hidden. It's easily brushed aside. You read it and you go to the next article, and then in 2 hours you've kind of forgotten, and in 2 days it's gone. It's lost in the wash to the ether. And so people, you have to be into it to understand that it's there, because there's going to be people in a couple of years not even know this was released and be talking about it. And then you're going to be like, you don't remember reading that?
Where were you?
Yeah. Like, no, I don't remember reading any of that stuff. And then they're going to find it that way. I always go back to Bob Lazar, because out of all the stories when I was young and reading and listening to all this stuff, I was drawn to his. And I was drawn to his because he didn't over detail it. And for some reason, for me, when you get too over detailed about every little minutia thing that you're doing, it does not hold water for me, because I know how I am. And for me, I'm going to be able to give you details, but they're not going to be like, oh, it was a Tuesday at 8:30. There was about 75 degrees. And, they come by and pick me up in this bus, and you name the type of the bus, and you go into this whole thing, and there's an old Bluebird. They painted it white, had the windows blacked out. And I mean, you go into this whole stuff, and some way and somewhere in that story, they're going to find a way to point the light back at themselves when they're making it up, because the whole story is about them being cool. Bob never really made it about himself, because he always talked about being at S4. That's what I always remember. He's going to S4. We're heading to S4. I worked at S4, this whole thing. And S4, and then you get into it, you find out nobody really knew what it was till now. It's known as Area 51, and all. And so he goes into this whole deal, and you're like, oh. And then he talks about the hand scanner. You remember that thing? And you'll see it. They even talk about it in the documentary. He talks about his hand scanner, and nobody believed it. And then they found photographs and actual physical evidence of, oh, yeah, that's the hand scanner. He's like, yeah, that's what I used.
He's like, hello, I've been trying to tell you this.
30 years. He's like, I've been explaining this to you guys for 30 years, and y'all have been treating me like crap. And now you're worried of where I went to school, because back then the government could easily erase you. And so now they do it, and now they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, Bob was right. I'm like, I think somebody owes Bob a beer. That's what I think.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, come on, Bob. Bob ruined his life to tell us the stories about these things.
Well, he was or is a very well-known conspiracy theorist, as everyone feels like he is. And so when anyone is titled a conspiracy theorist, you know what kind of shit they get for that. I mean,
that's true.
And where he was so out there with his opinion and everything like that, of course he's going to get ridiculed.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy that has to happen. We can't share our experiences or our truth without judgment, but it is what it is. It's part of our human experience. So here we are. We're going to take a quick break, you guys, and when we get back, we're going to hear more about UFOs, because I have some more questions, and whatever else Cam decides to share with us. So stay close.
Hi folks, it's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore. Because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit dbondhandymanformula.com. That's dbondhandymanformula.com or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by D-Bond.
The Liberator rocket heater will heat your home for free. The highly efficient Liberator rocket heater has no moving parts. It's safe and strong, constructed of quarter-inch steel. So like all things made in the USA, it's built to last. Uses any kind of wood, sticks, even scrap in its gravity-fed firebox. And it heats workshops, homes, garages, outbuildings, industrial areas, and barns. Watch the video of this blast furnace stove in action. Visit rocketheater.com. That's rocketheater.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Now you have the inside contact for alternative talk radio. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
Hello, you are listening to Soul Wanderings on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, Hudson Valley, New York. Soul Wanderings can be found on so many listening platforms like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, all of them. Just look for us. We're there. All my shows are available for replay on soulwanderings.com. If you're enjoying the show, I would really appreciate you sharing with your best pals. I would love to have more stories shared with the world. And we do that by having amazing listeners who oftentimes turn into guests because everyone has a story to share. We are visiting with Cameron Hale tonight. Hello, Cameron. Welcome back.
Thanks.
He's a storyteller. What did you call yourself? A yarn spinner? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I like to spin yarns.
Yeah. So that makes me visualize sitting at the campfire with my dad or my brothers or whatever and telling stories. Like I was telling you during the commercial, we used to go out to the West Desert a lot. And I remember sitting by the fire. Dad was always trying to scare me. He still does. He's a big kid. That's just how it goes. And if you're listening, Dad, hi. He listens to my show. He's so awesome and supportive. But anyway, it's just the stories, the everyone's perspectives, just all of it. It's just so much fun. So I can see why you enjoy it so much. I love it myself.
I love the idea of yarn spinner because of, the movie Ghostbusters 2, whenever I believe it's the second one. And one of the television, one of the anchors, TV hosts, whatever it was that they're interviewing, one of the news anchors says that he goes, my grandmother used to spin yarns or spin tales of like a ghost train. And I remember that in the movie and I was like, spin tales, spinning yarns. I'm like, I like the idea of that. And then with the whole thing of the storytelling and all that, I'm with you it reminds me of like sitting around the house with the fireplace going and your grandfather sitting there on the hearth. And he's like, I'm going to tell you kids a story and you're going to like buckle up. And then you start telling the story, and it's just always something. And I think storytelling is good for the soul. It's good for everyone. I mean, it used to be the only form of entertainment we had back before electricity was storytelling. So
Yeah, that's
think
what is so neat that you're
yeah.
continuing to do that.
I just
I mean, honestly, how many people do we know that will sit down and tell a story? Everyone's in such a hurry and
Yeah.
going all over the place.
everybody.
So that's what I love about shows like ours, because we take a couple of hours out of the week and, hey, let's hear your story.
Yeah, let's share it.
Yeah, it's
I
so
like
good.
So
Going back. Oh, go ahead.
I was telling you off air about a story about a skinwalker because we were talking about Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
I told you I would tell you when we came back from break, and I'll tell you this story. One of my dad's old buddies, who has since passed away several years ago, was a farrier. So we shoot horses for a living. And for years and years. So he got around like a farrier, and he's just an old cowboy like my dad. So if you haven't ever seen how a farrier gets around, a horseshoer gets around, just find you one and watch. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's very hard on the hips and lower back. So they get around like an old cowboy would get around, right? So we were all over at his house one day, and his name was Fritz. And, yeah, he was German. And they had come, his family was down around New Braunfels and Comanche and all that area down in a little south of where I live here in Texas. And his grandfather, back in the day, he's telling me this story. Me and my father, this story. We're sitting there at his house. He tells us about his grandpa living outside of Comanche, Texas. And he's telling me that his grandpa, he used to go stay with him. Now, his grandpa, never really had electricity. He was just one of those old. So you got to imagine his granddad was an old man in the 20s is basically when all this stuff was going on. So his granddad had a farm and a ranch, and all this, and they had, all kinds of animals and, and all this. So my dad's buddy Fritz would go down when he was a kid and stay with his grandpa and help him take care of the place and stuff whenever they weren't working on, their home place. And he said he loved going to his grandpa's because his grandpa was a lot, you could do work, but he was a lot more fun to work with. He wasn't like most fathers. Sons and fathers never get along. It's just the way it's going to be. Sons and grandfathers usually always get along. So Fritz was telling us the story. He said, my granddad used to always tell me the story. He said every few years there would be a big white coyote show up. And he said that coyote would end up killing chickens, or it might kill a calf or whatnot. And he said that the coyote never came at the same time. Like it wasn't at the same time every year or all this. And it never was around all the time. Said it might show up for 3 or 4 days and then it was gone. You wouldn't see it all year. And then it might be another year or so. And then it would pop back in and might see it 3 or 4 more days. And then it would be gone again till the following year. And he said this had gone on for about 3 or 4 years. And his grandpa was like, man, we talk about it and a few other people have seen it and all this. And he's like, I've always losing livestock to it. And he said, eventually I'm going to get it. He said, eventually I'm going to end up catching it while it's out there. And Fritz said, well, it just so happened that while he was there is when they caught it. They caught sight of it one evening and it come by. And I don't know if it had been terrorizing the calves, what it had done, but Fritz's grandpa pulls out his old rifle and pumps one into it, knocks it down, and it gets up and takes off running. So as it's getting dark, they track it as best they can. And they're like, no, I'm not going to go looking for it. It's a coyote. We'll look in the morning. No big deal. So they go in, make their dinner, do all their stuff, go to bed, get up the next morning. They're going to go to town. So they're going into town. And his grandpa's looking for blood down along this road or wherever they saw it run down from their house or from his grandfather's house. Now to stop there, I'll tell you, there was an old woman that lived in this town that was an old Native American woman. And she lived in an old shanty, an old shack out there. And they said she would walk to town and sometimes people would pick her up, bring her to town and stuff like that. But she lived by herself, really stayed to herself. But people were like, used to always say that old woman's a witch. Like she's an old Indian shaman or an old Indian witch. And that's what she is. And you don't need to go over there and go around her. So Fritz had always said, he goes, getting older, I don't know if it was just the way people, of course it was the way people were back then. They would, if you weren't white, they weren't going to, they're not going to treat you the same way, of course, especially back then. And then they have all of this judgment for you. So Fritz had said, that they're driving in and his grandpa sees a blood trail. And so he stops and they, hop out and get over there and get to looking around and they're trying to find this whole thing. And they start blood trailing this coyote. And he said they probably track it. It's not bleeding a lot, but he said they probably track it a few hundred yards, 300 or 400 yards through the scrub and through the brush. And they come up on that old Indian woman's house, that old shack. And Fritz said him and his grandpa go up there. He said, they're not armed. They're not nothing. He said, we walk up there, knocked on the door. She didn't answer. They go around to the back and knock on the door. You know, it's just a little shack. They're like, where's she at? They're looking all around. And finally, Fritz's granddad kind of rattles a knob and opens the door. And there she is laying in there on the floor dead with a bullet hole in her. So they go to town and get the sheriff's department, get the sheriffs and bring him out there. And Fritz's grandfather explained why they were there and what they had tracked over. And that's what they found. And the sheriff said, well, there's nothing we can do about it now. And that was the last they heard of the whole story. Yeah, so the story goes that his grandpa had lost several animals throughout the years to it. And the one weekend that he was staying a couple of months, I guess, with his grandfather. And anyway, one of those nights and of course, Fritz is telling me this story. He's in his late 60s at the time he's telling this, maybe in his 70s. And I'm, let me see, 12, 13 years old, probably 13. He's telling us that. And he said, I'll never forget it. He said, not only will I never forget finding her, but he said, I'll never forget that coyote. And he said, you will never make me believe that she wasn't that coyote. He goes, there's no way possible. He's like, that's the only explanation. Nobody's going to rob an old Native American woman. He said, she didn't have anything. She had nothing. He's like, why would you kill her? Nobody's going to kill her. And he said, there was the blood trail. And he even brought up, he said, she was so old, even if she were shot somewhere else, he's like, she's not going to make it all the way back to her house. He said, because the blood trail we were trailing had coyote tracks leading that way till they lost the blood within 100 yards of the house, maybe 70 yards of the house. So, yeah.
Oh my, if that would, if I'm like all
that's another one
out.
Of those that I'm like.
That's another one.
Here's what's crazy. That old sucker, that old man, Fritz, he never talked about any of that stuff. Like, it never came up. He never made jokes about ghosts. It was one of those things. My dad and all of his buddies were old ranch hands, old cowboys, all that. They never thought down those lines. That was something that never crossed their mind. They are all just a bunch of old, hard, no-nonsense dudes. So for him to tell that to me and my dad, it had to not only be 100% true, but it had to truly affect what he experienced his whole life.
Right.
He just never
He'd been carrying that around with him.
Yeah. The weight of that. Yeah.
No.
I think he'd only told probably his wife. It was probably the only one that ever knew about it. And then one day he told us about it, and it was crazy.
What an incredible story.
Yeah.
And see, these are the things that I wonder, like when I hear stories like this, I wonder with my spiritual belief of after we leave here and get all the answers or come back into awareness or whatever that looks like, if we find out about all of this, if we get the answers to these experiences.
I don't think we're going to, because where would the fun be in that?
Well, I mean, I look at it differently because we're humans. We're erased of our memory when we come here so we can have a human experience. But when we go back, we're made aware of everything. Like our memories given back to us.
I'm going to need 2 trips through that awareness line.
You have a lot of experience.
I'm going to need a lot of more awareness because I'm not very aware of much. So I'm going to have to double dose. I need a double dose of that awareness when they run me back through. I'm going to have to go back through again.
Well, that's what I'm.
I'm a slow learner. You're going to have to try this again.
Oh my gosh. But I'm wondering, like, honestly, sincerely, if we're ever going to know, because those things trip me out. Like, and there are so many stories like that.
Like I always feel like somebody has found, it's kind of like a cheat code in a video game. Like they've done their research or they've been raised in a shamanic lifestyle and they know certain things. And you could say they were chance. You could say, I mean, but what way would we know right now that you could convert your body? You could change your body into a coyote and then resort back to being a human form. Like, it's a preposterous idea that with the science that we understand, it's impossible. It can never happen. But I always think to myself, what if there's cheat codes in these dimensions? And if you know these cheat codes, pretty much everybody's seen the movie Doctor Strange, right? The one with, what's his face on there?
That just made me think of Micah Hanks.
Benedict Cumberbatch, isn't that his name?
Yes,
whatever. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, I think I changed that. What's wrong with mine? So I think like he's got cheat codes almost the way he's learned all that.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a thing.
It
Might really be a deal.
There could be some truth to that. I can see how that would work out. But there are a lot of I don't know how many. I shouldn't say a lot, but I know of several reports of shape-shifting at Skywalker in and around the area. Like that is a thing.
If you could pick your shapeshifter to shift into, what would your shape be?
Oh my goodness, put me on the spot.
It's gonna be something awesome. Would you fly? Would you walk? Would you crawl?
No, I would want to be some ocean animal, honestly.
What?
I couldn't do anything in the ocean but swim, but I want to.
Completely weightless life. Living in the ocean. Look, dolphins have got it made. Let's be honest. They're pretty
they get to play all of the time. They're incredibly intelligent, and they just get to swim and play around these beautiful surroundings. Why would you not want that?
That's a really good point.
But honestly, I just think I want to be a mermaid when it comes down to it.
There you go. There you go.
However, for the greater good, I would probably, if I was a land animal of some kind, the first animal that comes to mind would be
a dung beetle.
Ew, no. A wolf.
Whoa.
They're badass.
I would be a falcon. Some sort of falcon, some sort of large bird of prey, maybe an owl.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can see why that would make sense.
I just want to be able to fly and hunt. How cool would that be? Be pretty awesome.
That'd be a perfect bird for you.
That would be pretty awesome. Be able to fly up on the mountains like that, looking around. Like I've seen the GoPro where it looks like it's riding around on some golden eagle or something. I'm like, that thing looks pretty cool.
And I just want to be savage. So.
But I don't want to be a coyote because apparently it doesn't work out so good for you if you're a coyote.
What is that?
Oh, is it shape-shift into a coyote? You get shot. But what I don't understand about the story Fritz shared is why it's only once a year for like 3 days. So it's almost like a curse because that's what he said. His grandpa would only see. Now, in all honesty, it may have been going on all the time. She may have only been in that area close to home for a few days every year. But the way it sounded was like it was less than a week. And it was never the same week, and it only happened once a year at random times.
And that's when I wonder if astrology, and I don't mean like your sun sign or moon sign, but the actual shift of the stars and the planets are kind of like the code. And when they shift different ways, different portals and dimensions get opened, because then it has the whole rotation. So it only happens at certain times of the year. Go. I'm probably really out there, but honestly, because if you look at history, we've used the stars and planets for our compass and calendars, and it has directed us in different ways that are accurate. So, I mean, it could be a thing, maybe.
Do you think it also could have been maybe a curse put on her where it was only for 3 days?
Possibly. I think anything is possible when you don't have the answers.
I mean, you got to keep it all open, right?
Absolutely.
Have to.
And I think that's what's fun about hearing stories because, you'll have a perspective and an idea, and so will I and whoever else is listening. And that's what's so neat about it.
Yeah.
None of us are right.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, I think the answers are going to be so mind-blowing when we find out the truth that we aren't even going to know what to think.
I don't know if my feeble brain can take it. Seriously, I'm going to have to, like I told you, 2 trips through. I need 2 trips through just so I can figure this kind of stuff. And that's the whole thing. Like, literally, all of us that took the extra step to get into doing a podcast or a YouTube channel or writing books and all that, we're looking for answers. Yeah. We were just out there looking for answers, and all I have found is way, way more questions. That's all that I haven't understood anything any more than before I started.
Isn't that a good researcher, though? honestly, the more you dig into it, the more questions you have than answers.
Oh, I've not got any. I'll tell you what I've learned. I've learned that ignorance is bliss, and that it's way better to not know all the diabolical behind the scenes crap that not just our government, but multiple world governments have pulled. It's better to not know that. I mean, truly, because you're like, oh, I'm just happy every day. I'm just apple pie, mowing the yard, and I'm so happy and all.
Oblivious.
Yeah, it's truly
and safe. Safe.
Yeah, a cow's life isn't so bad until at the very, very end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it feels. Like it's one of those, what is it? What's the fella's name from The Matrix? Whenever he says, just put me back in, he goes, I know the steak's not a steak, but it sure tastes great. And he's like, and I'm willing to give up some of that for this.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to wake up in the morning and be out of the Matrix.
Great movie.
Yeah, you'd be like, well, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, are you ready for it? Because I don't know that I am. I don't know that I want the answers.
Going back to the answers, when all of that information was released from the Pentagon about UFOs, we were talking about what their agenda would be. Like, why would they do that now? And why did they disclose this information now of all times? So you already answered the first question, but why do you think it's happening when all of this other chaos is happening? Is it just so it can go under the radar, or subconsciously go into our memory because something big is about to happen with that experience with them? That's
a very, very tricky question.
I'm good at tricky questions. In fact, I'll go on and on and on before I even get to the point of the question.
It's very
Sometimes you have to ask me, what are you talking about?
Well, I think you're onto something with the whole idea that it could be an agenda to like they're preparing us for something that might be about to happen.
Yeah. Are we going to go like into war with these beings, or
like what if COVID-19
they're going to start
was
moving
released
in
to infect the entire world, so that way they knew that we would be carriers for it because it'll kill the aliens, and when they land, we're already immune to what we're going to release on them that we know will stop them. That's
a possibility also.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down that road, and I don't want to think that it's coming. I want to think that they're just people, that the government's got some kind of, and they're just like a disgruntled employee group, and they're sitting around the water cooler with some burnt coffee, and they're like, "Oh, Carl, did you actually upload that? You didn't, did you? Like, you better go upload that. Like you missed it by 2 weeks." Like, yeah, I know, man. I was golfing, the COVID hit. You know how that goes. And then he goes out and he hits it, and then they're like, you get the phone call, like, didn't y'all release that 2 weeks ago from the big boss? And we're like, well, you know about the COVID. And they're like, yeah, we don't care about the COVID. Why didn't that get released? And then it just turns into a bad show for them there. I like to believe it's kind of along the lines of ignorance, and they just released it to be releasing it. But inside, I know that's not true. I know there's a lot more planning to it and a lot more reason that it's done that way. And it feels like 2020 is going to be a year that we learn a lot about a lot of stuff if you're willing to read deeper than just the headlines on repost on Facebook.
No kidding.
Like, if you look deeper, you're going to find out a lot more. And that may be it. That just may be a way of, I mean, what's more fun than giving someone a gift, and whenever you send them on like a little treasure hunt, getting a gift at Christmas where they got to go get this and go. The government likes doing it too. They like to make you jump through the hoops because they can. It's like, why? Yeah. They can make you do it. So it does feel like there's probably an agenda behind it, and they're probably going to hit us with some more later on. They're probably seeing how we'll take this. But
well, everyone seems to be taking it just fine. Like, oh yeah, we already know.
Yeah, truly, everybody that I've brought it up to isn't surprised. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they're like, yeah, I can understand. I can see that. Like, they don't even care. I'm like, how long has it been since you looked up? Like, it's been a while. You ain't walked out in the front yard and just looked up. You not done that? You know, that's free, right? You can go up there and look at that.
I bet it's beautiful in Texas.
There's some spots. There's some dark spots that my wife and I went camping at last year, and it's ridiculous because there's no light. There's no light pollution for miles around it. And you talk about seeing all kinds of cool stuff. It's beautiful. It's the same way whenever I was in Arizona in January when Kyle and I and my son backpacked in. It was the same way. You get out there and look up and you're like, whoa, I didn't know that existed. Get to see some fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's going to change, I think, a lot of ways that a lot of researchers have to now go about approaching the subject of UFOs with FOIA and things, because I can only imagine they got inundated with FOIA, just dumped on them with people wanting more information, wanting me to, I want this paperwork, I want that paperwork. And it may simply be this. Maybe somebody was getting too close to dropping some information. Maybe there was another whistleblower like Snowden or somebody going to come out. They actually had some stuff. And so they kind of headed it off right now. So what they were going to
they can be in control.
And it sounds like it's BS. Like whatever the whistleblower is about to release sounds like bull crap.
Yeah. It could be any of those, but it definitely feels like something's up.
Yeah, it feels like it's planned a little too well. But I still don't understand, like even we're talking about why people aren't more interested in that.
I don't know why people aren't asking more questions about everything that's going on right now. It just blows my mind how easily okay, here we go. I'm getting on this rant, and I said I wasn't going to do it.
We're not doing it. Come on, AJ, come on.
But think about it, how easily we're manipulated to believe that something is the truth when in fact it is not. Mm-hmm. But we are fighting for this truth literally to the death.
Yeah.
We want to be right so bad. But there is so many more bigger things that are happening right in front of us.
Human species is very tribal at its core, in its DNA. That's how we survived for so long, as you had your own tribe of people that you lived with. They helped you hunt and fish and kept you safe, helped you raise your children, this whole thing for thousands and thousands of years. We're just getting back to that core as people are drawing the line, and media is helping to force those lines to where people are picking which island or which tribe they're going to be in, and they're slowly dividing us, and we can't allow that to happen. We can't allow them to dictate to us, like, if you believe this way, then this is the group you're in, and if you believe this way, this is what you are, and all that. No, we can all still get along. It's okay to have an opinion and disagree and still be best friends.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
Fine. That's fine. That's what's called being an adult. That's how this happens. Now, when it turns to an evil way of thinking, and when I say evil, I'm talking about, say, racism, things along those lines. When you go that way, well, then we do have to draw some lines and be like, look, buddy, you're going to have to change your way of thinking. I said it on the show the other day. I said, I don't understand how anybody can be racist and hate someone for the color of their skin when there's so many more reasons to hate somebody. Mm-hmm. Like for not using their blinker, I hate you. Like if you like the Yankees baseball team, you and I are never going to be friends. I mean, if we go down these lines, I don't like tomatoes, just go down these lines. There's a lot of other reasons. That's way too easy. So there's no reason to be racist. Find out how they drive. Find out if they like to cut the crust off their bread. Find a real reason to hate somebody. I mean, come on. The rest
and none of the reasons you've stated are a reason to hate somebody.
Except not using their blinker. Now, that's a very good reason to hate someone.
Come drive in Utah. Yeah. You'll love it.
Yeah, my blood pressure gets up around here. I'm like, really? Really? I guess they didn't put them on that year model. Or like an old dad joke. Oh, I guess your blinker fluid's low. That's what you got to always yell out, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That one's a dad joke.
Yeah, but it does feel like this year especially, I think, has opened a lot of people's eyes to the fact that media can control things so easily.
Yeah.
And I think, like they always say, like when you learn to do things, and I always go back to editing video or anything, but when you really edit video, you'll notice that you'll find things that you like to use, and if you're not careful, you'll overuse it. You'll overuse a certain speed ramp. You'll overuse a certain cross dissolve. You'll overuse some sort of video transition, something along those lines, and it'll start ending up, if you're not careful, it'll be kind of like your tail, like in poker, on that video where you're like, man, I really overdid it. Kind of like using too much sugar in a recipe. Like, oh, it tasted sweet for those cinnamon rolls. If I double the sugar, how awesome it'll be. It'll be terrible. That's what it'll be. That's the reason that's the amount. I think that's what's happened in America especially, is the media has now added too much stuff. They've done so much that people were like, ooh, Now I can tell you're full of crap. Whereas before you did just enough to make me go, I don't know. Now you've gone too far.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think more people are figuring it out like, oh, you guys are just lying and making up whatever you want just to see if we'll read it. Like, this is just a game. We're all playing with each other. So like, I get it now. And I think more people are seeing that.
It's exciting to witness. It's exciting to be around people who are productively moving their voices. Mm-hmm. Because everyone's been silent for so long.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I don't agree with the violence and the ridiculous things that are happening with riots and things like that. But a voice and your words are so powerful. And having the courage to speak up and use them can literally move mountains if we're doing it all together.
You're very, very true. You're very, very right. Yeah. But that's the whole thing, is being a tribe. Well, we need to be a tribe. We need to be a tribe of human beings.
Yes.
That's what we need to be a tribe of.
And
because
I think
we've all gone through the same thing. Everybody's experienced happiness and sadness and a feeling of alone and anxiety and depression. We've all been down that road at one time or another. That's the human experience. So that's something we share. Everything outside of that should just be nonsense. But that is the true human experience. And that's the team we all need to be on. And especially now, because heads up, we just found out there's aliens for real. Not that we needed the government to tell us. I mean, all of us pretty much already knew. Like, yeah, no crap. Thanks for showing up. Go back to bed. That's the way it feels. But yeah, that's the whole thing. Is I think once we all get on Team Human, everything will be doing a lot better.
Well, and do you think that it's heading that way to a certain degree, more so than it was before?
Yes. I'm one of those optimistic people about the future.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm very optimistic that we learn. And the reason I say that is because seeing my daughter and my son and my nieces and nephews, and then seeing my nieces and nephews' children and seeing them learn and watching how much better of a human being they are at their age than I was at that age. Because I was nobody you wanted to hang around with. We were wild. Like,
yeah,
should have probably been in prison wild. Like, it was pretty, and to see how much more thoughtful that these children are these days. And they
are.
Well, it's something that, like, we never talked about depression, anxiety, not feeling your best and all that stuff. You didn't bring that up in my household. I mean, I lived with my dad. It was just my dad and I. You didn't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You was just like, well, what's the matter with you? You know, I mean, like, what are you, a sissy? Like, what's wrong? Like, suck it up. It's just how there was no discussion about feelings. Like, feelings. He's like, you still have feelings? It's one of those, like, what are you talking about? It was that. So growing up, we didn't have that. And as a parent, I wanted to make sure I could give that to my children, be willing to talk about that. And I think that I'm not the only one that's been down that path and was raised that way. And so now we're seeing it more and more and more of more parents raising their children. Like, I laugh all the time about Kyle's boys. Kyle's boys are unbelievably smart. And I'm like, well, they didn't get it from Kyle, but you look at that and I'm like, yeah, his kids are like way smarter than he and I were at their age. I'm like light years smarter. And I'm like, man,
it's crazy. I agree.
Like,
I've had that same experience.
Yes.
My son's 21 and he it just blows my mind. I don't know. He is so intelligent and common sense. Like, you know how rare that is.
Yeah.
He just has it, and his awareness to his surroundings and what's going on in the world and the universe. Like, they just come into this world now, and they are more awake than we ever were.
I like to believe that every generation
it's better
now. Yeah, that now we're working a little bit better. We're seeing our mistakes. We're working to be better. We're trying to leave it a better place. It truly is right now at my age. I'll be 45 this year. I feel like the work I'm doing right now is what I'm leaving for grandchildren. Like, I'm not going to see it. They talk about whenever they make scotch, that they talk about how long scotch has to age and that you're actually making whiskey or making scotch for a generation to come. You're never going to taste what you put in that barrel. You will never know what that tastes like. And you're drinking the whiskey made by a dead man. That man put his heart and soul into it, and he passed away before he got to try it. It's done. So you're drinking his hard work. And I feel like that's the way we're doing now. Is like the work I'm doing now is I want to try to leave something behind of entertainment, of course, but someplace that's judgment free, that's fun, that's loving, and that everybody's welcome at all times. And that everybody, because aliens I don't know if anybody's aware of the Betty and Barney Hill case. They're an interracial couple. They are not racist. They will take anyone. An alien will grab you and take you. And that's how this works. And so, like I said before, I'm on like the tribe human. I don't want anybody to get taken up into space or any of that stuff. So I just want it to be a giant tribe. And I think eventually we may get there. Now, I don't think that there's ever going to be a moment to where there's no war. There's always going to be war. There's always going to be violence. But I think the good outweighs the bad now, and I think it's only growing. I think the scale is still tipping in good's direction.
Good. I love that you feel that way. I do too. A lot of people are freaking out right now when the world's coming to an end and all hell's breaking loose. But I really am trusting the process. I believe that we are just cleaning house, and like everything is, yeah.
I still think that, like you said, it's a process. You got to trust the process. There's always, it swings one way and it swings back before it ever settles down. And we've got the pendulum swinging again. We had it too good for too long.
Yeah.
We were sitting on our asses and we were cruising through life as a culture, as a world. And now all this has happened to let us all know it doesn't take much, and we can eradicate and erase everything if we want, if we don't do things right. So we need to reevaluate and be like, oh yeah, they're my brothers and sisters and I need to take care of them. And we need to take care of each other. Like, we're all in this together. That's the way we have to look at this.
Beautiful. I concur. Absolutely. I was thinking about, if you were talking about younger generations, have you sat with the 5-year-old lately? Those 5-year-olds, my goodness.
My great niece, she is a handful now. But
they're so awake. They look into your soul. I swear they can see and feel everything.
We've got a lot of girls in my family, like literally it's all girls. And then like my son and my nephew, I was like nothing but nieces. And then my oldest niece has got 2, fixing to have her 3rd. And she's got a little girl, which is the one I was telling you, the oldest. She's not 5 yet. And then she's, I've got my nephew. He is, I'd be lying if I told you for sure. 2. And then I've got another one that's going to be born in 3 weeks. Another 3. But now I've got 2 boys. And I'm like, I have finally got some great nephews that we can roughhouse with and raise as these little fellas, because I've just been swimming in the estrogen ocean whenever we all get together at family events. These girls are handfuls, but it's the same thing. Yeah, to get to see those kids. And what I think I like the most is to see the younger generation applying what I realize I should have applied more to my children. They're now doing it. So their kids are going to learn this is the way to do it. And then so I need to do a little bit extra. But I do, like I said, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic for us.
Well, that makes me happy to hear. If we could have everyone as optimistic as you, we could really create some amazing magic.
I think so. This place could be, it's an amazing place, this world that we live on, and it could be even more amazing. The world doesn't need work. The people on it need to work on ourselves. And if we work on ourselves, then it will inherently make the world a better place.
I agree. And not just work on ourselves, work on the planet. Our connection to the planet, we are definitely destroying in more ways than I can even count. If we could reconnect to Gaia, with nature, appreciating it, taking care of it, the whole entire vibration of our experience is going to change, in addition to being kind to each other, to helping each other home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. The world is just nutso right now.
It is.
But let's talk about some other things besides humans, because we are so in a human experience right now. And I want to hear about things that would blow our minds. Like, what's an amazing story you've heard lately that you just are dying to share with us?
One of my favorite stories, and I had got it from a friend of mine, and I use him. I call him Doc, but it's not his real name, of course. And I've hunted with Doc, and I've known him for a long, long time. And he had finally, his wife and all this had finally forced him to do it. He had broke down and told me a story that I had covered on the show a couple of years ago, I believe. And I'm not going to get it all down. You'll have to go find it. But it is about the tiny hunters. And what it is Doc hunts in South Texas, down around like Sonora and Ozona and all this, down in that whole area down through Uvalde. But he stays all down in like more southwest Texas. So, it's rough, rugged country down in that area. And he had finally broke down and told me that he had some encounters with some stuff that he didn't really know how to explain it. So he just started coming out talking about it. And he was talking about being on a deer lease. He had finally got to hunt this land that he'd been wanting to get on for years and years, because he had hunted around it, but he knew this place was a really good spot. So he finally got permission to hunt on it. And so he leased it and had a place and had some friends with him, and, and they all got on there and the whole deal. And he had talked about some stuff had gone missing in one of the storage sheds. They had built a storage shed out there so they could keep barrels. You keep like your 55-gallon barrel with the metal barrels or whatnot to keep your corn in, so you can leave stuff down there so the rats and stuff don't get into it. And you keep your tools and other stuff in it while you're at your deer lease. You've got other things you can work with. And so they had gone in there and they were missing a few things, and they were missing like like some lids off of some stuff, and maybe missing like a socket. And he talked about missing things, and then he talked about missing like a little axe or a machete that come off of his four-wheeler. He lost a bunch of stuff while they were down there, but he's like, it wasn't like it was falling off. He's like, you would leave and then come back and one little thing was missing. He said, so it was strange, because it's not like somebody was breaking in. It's not like somebody was sneaking onto the place to steal a lot of stuff. Like literally, like it'd be like a little machete or something gone, or like a hatchet gone, or like I said, a socket missing. And you're like, why would somebody? So are we losing this stuff? Is it falling off? So it's, it's just little things in the back of your mind. And then he had talked about where he had hunted. There was a water trough in the ground. So they would, lots of places in there in Southwest Texas, it's so hot and dry that it's hard to raise cattle on it, but they can raise sheep on it. And so they'll live on there, and they'll dig water troughs down into the ground and pour them out of concrete. So it looks like it may be, let's say, 18 inches wide, and it may be 12 foot long, and it may only stick up out of the ground 2 inches, but it'll be, 24 inches deep. And there'll be a windmill, and it has the water coming up as the windmill pumps, and it's necked down a little bit to where it keeps that trough full all the time. And what it's for is for the sheep and the whitetail and the turkey and javelina and anything else that's out there is going to go and get water from it. And so he tells a story that he had finally found this place at the end of the road that he'd wanted to hunt on, and that's where the water trough was and all this. And he had gone up there, and it was real beat out and dusty with tracks with deer and all that. So the sand gets beat down almost like powder. So everything leaves a really good, distinct track. And so the tracks, he gets there as he looked, and he said that he saw small tracks that looked like they were like infant tracks, like from a baby in the sand, in the dirt there at the water trough. And
like a human foot?
Like a human foot, yes. That had walked out of the grass and ended up there to look like it had stopped to get water and then walked off. And he was like, what is this? Instantly, like somebody's messing with me. So he starts looking around, and he runs the tracks out till they hit hard packed grass, and he can't find it anymore. So he's like, I don't know what this is. He said it kind of creeped him out, but he kept hunting there. Now, this is taking place over a number of years, like 4 years, I think, a span of. And it wasn't stuff all the time. Like he found those tracks, and then there was nothing for a while. And then so he said, fast forward a couple of years, he said he's hunting in the back of the property up on a ridge, and his back, he's got a pop-up ground blind, a bow blind, and he's hunting where you got to walk way back in there. It's a big, like a big flat on top of a little hill, big mesquite flat. And so he's set up there, and he said the back where he can turn and look, he's looking out over a big, rough ravine area. And he said he had sat there, multiple times, and he was glassing the trail. And he said he had always seen javelina or seen stuff moving, because you're looking a long distance over on the neighbor's place too. Mm-hmm. And he said up this trail, he notices there's 3 javelina. So he's watching them. So he pulls his binoculars up and realizes it's not javelina. And what he goes on to describe were 3 small Native Americans that had little like hide jackets, like made out of hair of whatever they had killed. Maybe it was raccoons, whatever it was, little jackets. and one's got a walking stick, one's older and all this, and they are moving. They have like little pouches on their hips, on like little belts, and they're got sticks and like baskets, and they're either like collecting stuff or going somewhere to get something. And he's watching them, and he was like, I'm telling you, and I'm sitting in his house when he's telling me these stories, and he is rattled just even talking about it, because he's like, man, I've only told my wife this, and then like mentioned it to one other guy, and that was it. And he's like, I'm telling you, he said, I'm looking at what looked like 24-inch to 18-inch tall Native Americans, like perfect structure, facial, everything, like you would just shrunk one down from, like way back when, and I don't know, you're talking about the dinosaur times. If we, when you look at that, he's like, this is what it looks like. Like these were people that had come over maybe on the land bridge. He's like, I don't know, but that's what I'm looking at. Cavemen. And so he watches them, and they wake their way up and go over the ridge. And this is on the neighbor's place. And he said, this is a long ways away. But he said, it's clear enough that I can see that, they've got, I think he said he thinks that one of them had maybe the cup, or turned it into a cup, but it was like the top off of a can of spray paint. So like the little plastic lid. He said it looked like it was like hanging. So he's talking about all this stuff, and he's like, you can't wrap your head around it. So he was like, I didn't hunt up there much after that. But he said it wasn't because of that. It wasn't as good a hunt as what he had hoped in that area. But he's like, man, I don't know what's going on. I was like, this is too weird. So then you fast forward, he said, it gone on. So he's hunting during turkey season. Now that was during deer season. So it's in the fall. So turkey season's in the spring here in Texas, like everywhere else, March, April, something like that. So he's down there hunting. And he said that he's trying to call this turkey in. He's not having the best of luck. And it's hanging up out there, which means it's not coming to the calls. And he doesn't have any real way of trying to kind of get close enough to pull him in. He's making his hen calls, and he's got some decoys, and he's like, I'm going to have to try to cut him off. And he said, good thing for me. Now he's back to hunting at this point, back where that little water trough was that I had described to y'all. And he said that there is a creek that's a sandy bottomed creek. So like you could tell if it had, back in the day when it had rained and flooded a lot. And he said if there was any flash floods, of course, the creek would have water, but it's more of a runoff creek. So it never really holds water. It's just where the water runs and drains off the property. So over time, it has washed out and turned into like a big little dip, like a little valley there, like a dried creek. And it's full of sand. So he goes, you can move through there in silence, and you're below the level of the ground above you. So he goes, this is perfect. I'm going to be able to drop down in that creek. He goes, I'm going to move maybe 150 yards around in like a horseshoe and pop up and throw my decoy up. And he said, I'll be able to call that turkey in, and it's going to be within 50 yards of where I'm going to pop out of this creek at. So he said, and he's in full camo, carrying his bow, got his pack on, got his decoy in his pack, he's got his full, everything, right? Face mask on, the whole deal. He said he gets started down that creek, goes little ways, and it bends back to the right, and he bends back. And he said, as he bends back, he's staying crouched down. So he's almost duck walking so the Tom doesn't see him coming through that creek. So he's kind of crouched over. He says, as he makes that bend, he looks up because he's startled because there's something on the edge of the creek at like eye level with him. And he said he stops, and it's the natives. It's like a couple of them standing there. And he said they're 18 inches tall. And he said one of them looks like he must have killed a rabbit. Because he said they're carrying little bows, little arrows, got little quivers on. They got their stuff on their belts. He said, I shit you not, is exactly what he told me. He goes, I think one of them was wearing that socket that we missed around his neck. And then he goes into the whole deal of one of them is like carrying a rabbit. He's like, not a full one, but it's a rabbit tied up and over him like you would have a satchel on. And they're making their way through the woods themselves hunting. And he goes, at this point, I'm 20 yards from them. He said, I'm froze, and they're right above me. He said, so if I was to stand up, he goes, I'm eye level with them. That's how small they are on the level ground. They're just kind of working their way along a little path along the top of that creek. And he said he just froze and was looking at them, and they froze and was looking at him. He said it felt like hours. It couldn't have been more than a few seconds. And he said, I just nodded my head at them, and I just kept going. He said,
really?
I just walked right by them. That was it. He said, I just pretended they weren't there. He said, I walked right by him, turned, and he had talked about riding his bike. He'd always ride his bike up in there to hunt, so it was quiet, didn't leave any fumes, nothing like that. And then it beats walking. And he said he made that loop and then looped back out, never hunted, went right back to his bike and rode the bike back all the way back to the camp, packed all of his stuff up and was ready. He was done. He's like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what just happened, the whole thing. He had stayed a little longer than some of the other guys and all that. But anyway, he still hunts there. I still talk to him. He hasn't seen anything in several years down there now. Like, it's been a few years. There's been nothing. He hadn't seen anything since that encounter. And he told me, and he still talks about it. He's like, I'm afraid I scared him off. He said, I'm afraid that was their place and they were comfortable there, and me being there scared him off. But he said what he felt like when he came eye to eye with them was, he goes, I felt so emotional seeing them. He said it was just one of those things that you just can't describe to see. He goes, it wasn't the fact that they were tiny. It wasn't the fact that they weren't supposed to be there, that it didn't make sense. He goes, they were 100% anatomically perfect, just shrunk down to that size. And he said, man, it just felt like a privilege. He said, I still feel that it was a gift that was given to me, that I was allowed to see something like that. He's like, I put in the work and I got to see it. And he said he had talked to one other guy down there, and one other guy has had some funny stuff happen, but he's like, they've never really opened up. But both of them kind of talk about, being vague about it, like an inside joke, but both of them kind of know. And so, yeah, that's the tale. And like, I've been waiting. I talk to him every deer season, shoot him a text message. How's it going? What do you got? He'll send me pictures of deer he's got on camera, stuff like that. But nothing about the native stuff. He's like, nope. He's like, not that. He's like, there's nothing, like we're not missing stuff. Like, nothing was happening like it was when they first got on the place.
Wow. Just gone.
Yeah. Just gone. Just vanished. Whatever it was just, yep.
I know you're into the Fae folk. That's one of your favorites, if I remember correctly. Do you think that maybe that could possibly be part of that family?
It's the only thing that explains it, but to be 100% honest with you, I don't even want to put that in that category, because that's a very special thing to me.
I just know that, like, that energy that he's expressing, like, I feel that way when I have any experience with Fae, with that kind of energy.
It's the only thing that explains it.
Yeah.
100%. Because nothing else, like interdimensional stuff, none of that stuff explains it. It is the only thing that could possibly explain it. They were brownies. That's all it could be. So they're like a very primitive tribe of brownies, whatever it was. And that he just explained it as being Native American and all this. But he swears that he's like, no, man, they were Indians, is what he said. They were Indians, like Indian in the cupboard Indians. Like, that's what they were. They were just a certain. So he doesn't really explain it like it looks like a Dwindies or anything like it. I mean, it was 100% Native American looking men on a hunt. But yeah, and he's not one of those guys. Like, that's the funny thing, is he's not one of those dudes that's real.
He's a man.
Yeah. Like, he's not going to let that stuff in a love and light. Like, he don't even know what that's bullcrap. He's not about that. So when he talked about how he actually felt, I think that's when his wife knew that she's like, he's got to tell somebody. Like, somebody needs to know, because you have a feeling like that and you keep it to yourself and you can't tell anybody without fear of judgment. It'll eat you up. It'll burn you up on the inside. So I think it's, once it got it out, that it's one of those deals. But also too, I know that he looks harder still to this day. He's like, there's not a time goes by when I don't go to that water trough that I don't walk around it looking for footprints. He's like, every time I go there. And he said, every time I go there, I'm hoping to find them. And he's like, I haven't. And he's like, I go there all the time. And he's like, but I still haven't found them.
Maybe he'll manifest it one day. I think when you're looking, though, that for anything in life, that's when it's not going to present itself.
Don't say that, because I don't look for anything. So I don't want stuff to just pop in.
No, I mean, when you're looking for...
AJ, you wishing the evil on me?
Zip. No, that was not my that was not my intention. Oh, my goodness. Cam, we're already getting requests to have you back.
All right.
I told you. Last time you were here, everyone was like, you got to have him back. And why did we wait 2 years?
I don't know.
Too long.
Hopefully, I will get the rest of the stuff from the woman that was talking about the other small little creatures like she was dealing with. It could possibly be the same exact thing. The doc
Well,
was.
we'd love to hear about it.
So I'm trying to get all that. Yeah, I'll have some more crazy listener stories. Like I'm telling you, some of them, they're like, don't share this. And all that. And you read it and you're like, I'm terrified. There's no way I'm going to tell anybody about that. Like, I can't even imagine having that.
Right? You don't want to repeat it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I've heard some of those stories where I'm like, okay, I'm never talking about this ever again.
I wish you could erase it from your memory.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got those.
Absolutely.
I'm like,
well, we'll have to have you back. Like I said, everyone's already saying, bring him back. And let's not wait 2 years this time. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that they know how to listen to yours and Kyle's podcast, because if you guys love tonight, you're going to love their show. It's so good. How can they do that?
Anywhere you find your podcasts, folks, you're going to find Expanded Perspectives. Just go to the search bar, search Expanded Perspectives. You can Google search Expanded Perspectives. So we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on, Spotify, Stitcher, literally Podbean. Anywhere you get any podcast, you're going to be able to find us. We're also on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. You can also, same thing, Expanded Perspectives. You'll be able to find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We've got all of that stuff. You want to find it. But if you want to listen to it there, that's the best place will be, of course, probably Spotify, things like that. We're a big fan of Spotify, but any place you find it, you'll just search it up and find it. Yeah, and we just keep knocking out and talking about crazy stuff. We have people pop in, authors pop in from time to time, and we have some interviews coming up. And yeah, it keeps us busy.
Good.
Keeps us out of trouble.
It's so good, and you guys been doing this since 2013, you said.
Yeah, since 2013.
Fantastic. Make sure you guys go and follow and support and listen, because they both do have a lot of amazing stories. And it's been awesome to have you back with us. We're definitely going to have to schedule some more time in the future.
Of course. You need to I'll get Filson on here next time.
We'll get you both on here.
We'll get him on here to tell some crazy, because he's got wacky. I'll get him on here with us next time.
That'll be awesome. Bring a friend.
I'll bring a +1 with me.
I love it. Let's do it. Sounds like a fantastic idea.
We're down.
Soul Wanderings can be found on all of the main social media platforms, as well as soulwanderings.com. All the ones that Cam just said his are on. We're there too. And of course, make sure you're following KGRA Radio on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family. And you guys, let's keep having these amazing conversations that bring awareness and connection into our human experiences. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Good night, Wanderers.